Hazrat Sayyidina Abu Bakr Hiri alayhi rahmatullahi al-Qawi, he says, I heard Hazrat Sayyidina Siri Saqati rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi saying this, that I spent 20 years in deserts, in jungles, in mountains, only for this reason that I am able to meet a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a true kamil friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I am able to have barakah and blessing through his sohbah, his company. For same reason, one day I went to jungle. I saw a cave and I entered into that cave. And I saw a paralyzed person. His arms were not moving. Two blind people and many people who were facing leprosy. And I asked them, what are you doing all here in this deserted jungle? And what is the reason for your gathering here? They all said, we are here waiting for a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, friend of Allah, whose status is such that whomsoever he puts his hand on, that person's diseases are cured. Subhanallah. Today he will come here and we are all waiting for him. Hazrat Sayyidina Siri Saqati rahmatullahi ta'ala says, I said in my heart, Insha'Allah Azza wa Jal, today my desire will be fulfilled and I will be able to see a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a wali who is a kamil wali, friend of Allah. And I also sat with those patients and I started waiting for that wali kamil. Now time passed and we saw a very feeble, weak individual who was wearing jubba made of wool, and he came towards us. As soon as he came, he said salam to us and sat down. Then he called a blind man. He made a gesture towards that blind man and that blind man got cured. Then that pious individual gestured towards that paralyzed man. He also got cured. Then he called patients suffering from leprosy and he put his hand forward, made a gesture, and all those patients also got cured. Then that pious individual got up to go back. Hazrat Sayyidina Siri Saqati rahmatullahi ta'ala says, when I saw him going, I immediately stood up and I held his clothes. He said to me, O Siri rahmatullahi ta'ala, don't come towards me. No doubt, Allah Azza wa Jal is Ghayyur, and your status, your position, your station before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very high and elevated. But He has kept this as a secret. Now, if you leave the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you have tendency towards anyone else, but I fear that your status may not be reduced in His court. Just have trust upon that Dhat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and always look upon Him. Subhanallah, subhanallah. Respected viewers of Madani Shah, du'as of awliya Allah are accepted. They can grant cure through the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They can become wasila. They can raise hands. They can make dua. No doubt it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who gives shifa. But through the dua of a wali of kamil, a person can get shifa. Yes, when we eat medicine, we've got this yaqeen that this medicine is not going to cure us, but this is just a means what we have adopted. Shifa is min janib Allah. Shifa, cure is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no doubt, but this is just a means. Likewise, these awliya Allah, friends of Allah, their du'as are means for the cure, for the blessings, for the barakah from the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When these individuals, they say something from their tongue, we also say so many things, but it is different. But when they say something from their tongue, from their pure and park tongue, that means a lot in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.